And our conversation this morning is on an aspect of this country that bothers all of us. Now, when I started this work more than 15 years ago, we always looked forward to the cocoa syndicated loan. And we looked forward to the cocoa syndicated loan because anytime the city was struggling, we say, oh, when the cocoa syndicated loan comes in,
we'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
Cocoa is Kaneba.
Now, even before I started this job, the conversation was about cocoa scholarship schemes that children of cocoa farmers were expected to enjoy. Then came the cocoa spraying exercise, the cocoa roads,
pollination.
In fact, everything about us is being cocoa. Unfortunately, at the period when the prices of cocoa on the world market are favorable, our farmers are complaining about a lack of payment. In fact, they are distressed. Some have threatened smuggling. Others have said they will sell their farms to, guess what? Illegal miners, galamseyers, to engage in galamsey. This morning, Nana Eduna is a spokesperson for Ghana National Cocoa Farmers Association. He's in studio with us. Nana, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, sir, and good morning to your viewers.
I hope, well, I don't need to ask how how the business is going because we know. But before we get to Nana Kojo, we've been doing some, research on cocoa. Tell us the problem that we're faced today and why it is such a major problem.
Well, the problem is quite big. If you look at the four key problems we have a problem with production collapse. If you look at the historical numbers in the 1950s, 1960s, that was when Ghana properly was the global leader in cocoa production. We're doing about 30 to 40%. Fast forward to 1970s, Ivory Coast has taken over, and now Ivory Coast is the market leader. If you look at the recent numbers, Ivory Coast is doing over 2 million metric tons a year. We are doing about 500 to 600 metric tons a year. So they are doing about 4 times what we are doing. We have countries like Ecuador coming up in the production strongly. Countries like Brazil also coming up in the production strongly. And if you look at the data, if you look at yield per hectare, for example, Ghana's yield per hectare is a bit lower than some of the other countries. It means that the productivity of our farms is lower. And if you are committing, say, 2 million acres to production, the same 2 million acres, Ecuador is getting better yields. For example, Cote d'Ivoire is getting between 300 to 500 kilograms per hectare. Ghana is getting 400 to 600. Indonesia is getting 500 to 800. Ecuador is getting 700 to 800. Brazil is around 450 to 500. And Cameroon is around 400 to 500. So that is also one of the things. Productivity of our farms is very low. And then there's a financial crisis. So the 4 problems, production and productivity, there's a financial crisis. COCOBOD, as it stands now, owes so much money. Based on the interviews the current CEO has had and all the interviews we've listened to and some of the data we have, we are estimating that COCOBOD owes about 60 billion Ghana cedis within the whole value chain. Today, the finance minister will make all those things clear. We want to know how much does COCOBOD owe. So there's a financial crisis. The financing breakdown. You remember, you mentioned the syndicated loan, and recently the financial institutions were not as confident in financing us as they used to be. So we went for a year without getting external financing. Okay, and even the local banks that we try to borrow from, they are still not as confident in the system as possible. And then there's a problem to do with the farmer payment crisis. So farmers are not being paid, LBCs are owed, and the general world market price. The world market price increased so high to a certain point and hit a peak, and it started falling. And so all these things are affecting our cocoa sector. So what is happening is that farmers have products they cannot sell. The government of Ghana, that is COCOBOD, owes so much money it cannot pay. Off-takers that we took money from were also unable to meet our obligations to them. The LBCs in the system, which is the licensed buying companies, They've also been able to raise some money and do some business. They are also owed money. The banks that gave money to the LBCs took people's savings and people's investments to invest. They are also owed money, and so the whole thing is, it's you say chaka. I don't know if there is a proper English word to explain this problem of COCOBOD. And as we talk about this, there is a conversation of restoring financing, the pricing issue, and there's also galamsey affecting cocoa in some of the growing areas.
Okay.
So this is generally what we are dealing with as a people when it comes to COCOBOD.
Okay. Now, I mean, productivity and all of those issues will boil down to finances.
Yeah.
Because yes, if you engage in the right practices, it's all about the finances. So let's deal with the financial issues. Now, before we get into how much you're owed and everything, let's have an understanding of how the cocoa system works. So where do you sit in it? The license buying companies, COCOBOD, what do they do? And when COCOBOD buys the cocoa from you, for instance, what percentage do you get from how much is traded on the world market?
Thank you very much for the question. If I tell you that I understand the full cycle well enough, I'll be lying, because a number of the things that are happening are unfortunately opaque. Okay, but I can, just from the perspective of a farmer as well as an entrepreneur, and I just want to emphasize that I'm going to give a perspective from a purely business perspective.
Please do.
And no politics here. And unfortunately, for a long time, we've been playing political football with our cocoa. The parties that buy, and if we're producing and exporting beans, the major parties that buy are business entities. They are not political entities. I mean, the Lints, the Barry Calibus, the Teutons, they are the Mondelez, Cadbury's. They are pure business entities with smart business people. They don't change their political cycles every 4 years. They don't change their management or their CEOs every 4 years. Okay, so just to situate that, in principle, the farmer, according to what has been said and implied, the farmer is supposed to get 70% of the FOB price. Okay, so that, if we were really looking at the way they did, like for example, with petroleum pricing, which actually fluctuates with what the global price is, then farmers will get different pricing at different times. It's interesting to note that the price went as high as $12,000 barely a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
But we were locked in from the syndicated model. We were locked in at a price of around $2,600. So there was a margin of $10,000 that we're not getting. Okay. The price has then slid down to it's now, I think, 3,800 or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so ideally, we should be getting 70%. If it's 12,000, we should be getting 70% FOB of it. And how COCOBOD calculate that FOB, again, is another relatively opaque thing. Okay, however, so we are supposed to be paid a certain percentage that is direct payment to the farmer. But the honest truth is that whatever margin, that's the difference, is what finances COCOBOD's operations. Is what finances COCOBOD salaries, is what they say what they'll come and tell us they are giving whatever for free. But it is the difference in the margin between the FOB and whatever they get, or they call the London terminal price, is what they use to finance the operations, is what they use to pay salaries, it's what they use to buy chemicals, whatever. So in effect, the farmer is actually funding all that. Okay, so that's basically a model. Of course, then there's the haulage, etc.
Yeah. But I mean, the reason we used to go for the syndicated loans in the past, beyond the foreign exchange, was that we had to. So when they come for the cocoa beans from you, they pay you and they take it, or they take it on credit?
No, I mean, again, the cocoa syndicated loan system, let me just try and simplify and break it down so it doesn't, okay. Ghana owns something. We own cocoa beans. Okay. Then we go and borrow money to pay for something that we own ourselves. Okay. We pay transaction fees extra. And then because we then want to, for want of a better word, shaft the farmers, we have a farm gate price. Okay. So we then collect that money and pay the farmers a certain percentage of money. We've factored in transaction fees, etc., foreign exchange depreciation, extra. Then we go and give it to a party, the beans to a party outside, who have actually influenced us selling at a low price because they're giving you money for it. So they tell you, you negotiate and they tell you, okay, we'll buy this at this lower price and we'll give you this bulk sum of money. So you turn the money around, whatever.
Yeah, but what I want to understand, and I'm building this so we have a better understanding of the problem. When they're buying the beans from you at the farm gate prices, do they pay as they take it, or they take it on credit?
No, they pay as they used to pay as they take it. What has happened this year is unprecedented in the sense that for 4 months they've collected cocoa from farmers and they haven't paid the farmers, but they are paying COCOBOD salaries. How does that? It just doesn't make sense. So, like I said, this year is an anomaly, and that shows the extent of the cash crunch. But previously, they've always paid because of the way also our rural economy is. People survive and thrive on cash that revolves around us. So they pay up front. Yeah.
So when they came to you, I mean, in the past, they paid you. So in the past, they'll go for loans, they'll come, and that's always been the issue with the loans. Okay, let's go for the loan. So it would help us to buy, and then we'll go and sell.
But unfortunately, that's been such a lazy approach. Because again, like I mentioned to you, you own something, and then you go and borrow money to come and buy something that you own. And you've been doing that straight on for 32 years. And the more you do that, the more you actually suppress the price and the value of what you own. The only, what did they call it, is that then a lump sum of money came at a particular time. But to be very honest, and I can use my own self as a practical example. Yes, I will sell beans when I need to raise money. But I make 20 or 30 times how much I can make from a bag of beans when I add value to the things that I do.
As in these products that you have
I
here.
make 20 times.
Yeah. You make 20 times more.
Yes. It's as simple as. So again, so the conversation should not be that we still remain a primary producer or the export of raw materials. The value or the game changer is in processing and adding value to what you grow. Now we talked about finding money, financing, etc. for farmers. But if you are making 20 times as much, then you can you can afford to pay your farmers or whatever a lot more comfortably. But if you are a price taker and you just go because all you are doing is trying to remain at the lowest end of the market, of course they'll collect your beans for cheap, make whatever chocolate products and come and sell it to you at 20 or 25 times the value. And in that respect, again, one of the things that I've heard from the discussions ongoing is that, we are going to really expand local production and support. I mean, that is the key. But another aspect that we should discuss very aggressively is this whole strange free zones model, where we then invite these big players in and give them the beans for relatively cheap again and give them all kinds of tax incentives and whatever, which is really anti-competition, or which is really a competition against the growth of the local processes. So if we are going to do any serious local processing, we have to, and I don't know whether it is possible to exclude cocoa from the whole free zones, but it does not make sense that, like, I'll give you a very practical example. There was a Belgian delegation that came visiting, looking for a partner, when they came through GEPA. So GEPA arranged an interaction, and there was one particular company that Belgium that was interested in the cocoa sector. So we had a meeting with them. We had very interesting exchanges and whatever. And then they then said, oh, they will come back to us with. Then the next day, they had a meeting with COCOBOD, who gave them all the freebies. So, I mean, at the end of the day, why should they come to interact with?
So typically, if you're a local cocoa processor, for example, and you want cocoa beans to process, you grow and process. But assuming you didn't have your farm, what will be the process of getting cocoa beans to process?
You will not even find them to process, because by the time the beans are even ready, they are paid for, they are collected, and they're gone.
So our local processors actually have to struggle to get it.
Yes, or you will have to source from the free zones company. So you actually, whatever you are then processing, or in terms of the inputs to process, you actually have to pay a tax of almost 50% to actually get the raw material.
So you buy it as though you were importing the beans into the country, and you pay duties or something like that?
Yes. So these are inbuilt challenges in the system which we actually don't see. Because for COCOBOD, theirs is to find cocoa to go and export and get foreign exchange, which is important as well. So that like I'm saying, that the free zones, whatever aspect, actually then becomes an additional challenge, which is something we haven't talked about. But if you are then going to say let's ramp up local processing, that's something that you definitely have to look at. And another thing that has never really happened is, but we talk about local content and local ownership, whatever, in the oil industry, in the why aren't we talking about local ownership and proper stake, whatever, in the cocoa sector? So there are things that, I mean, I'll be honest with you. For me, this let's let the government find a way of paying the farmers the backlog, which is the pressing thing. But beyond that, we have to have a serious, honest conversation about how we make our cocoa sector a business-focused, business-friendly sector, which, fine, would, of course, the farmers are absolutely critical. There are different models of approaching that. Do we go for commodities exchange locally, or in the sub-region? Because after all, we grow 70% of the cocoa globally. So we should be determining the price. The price shouldn't be determined in...
Or should we say COCOBOD should get out of this whole trading business, do quality assurance and farmer support, so that LBCs will go and find their own money, come and buy the cocoa at a price set by a Tree Crops Development Authority or a COCOBOD authority. So go find your money, come and buy, go and sell. Processors can buy from them. Even processors can also aggregate themselves from the farmers. So the financial stress on the states is removed.
Thank you very much. Like I said, thank you very much for that.
All the other industries.
I want to throw something in again to our European colleagues. The model that COCOBOD operates right now is completely anti-competitive. Can you imagine the Food and Drugs Board being the regulator, then collecting drugs to sell? How? So COCOBOD is supposed to be a regulator, then it is a market player, then it is a price fixer, then it's whatever. So if for whatever model that financial model, whatever, but the regulator should be focused on quality control, research, and so that would be quality controls, QCC, research, Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, and to a certain extent, external markets, so CMC. The rest, sorry. So again, then
are you suggesting that we change the current model where COCOBOD, fixes prices here and there, that is buying from farmers? That should stop?
I'm not even suggesting. It's dead. The thing, COCOBOD is really now, medically we will say they are in an emergency room on life support. They are barely breathing. That's the honest truth. They are barely. You are in debt of how much? You're talking about the price of whatever you are supposed to buy and what I sell has collapsed, and you've lost the faith and the trust of your main stakeholders, the farmers. What?
But with global demand these days fluctuating, don't we still need a body like COCOBOD which can ensure we mop up what's the world market is not buying, store for when there is a market, so that farmers always have an avenue to sell?
That's where the commodities exchange comes in.
Okay.
And two, why do you store cocoa beans when you should be adding value? So again, that's where processing to whatever level actually becomes important, because you're actually better able to store the stuff and get a better price when you've added value and process. So there's no more point in stocking beans and then three, again, back to COCOBOD as it currently exists has outlived its usefulness. Really,
they've been given free seedlings, cocoa sprays,
but who says those things are free?
Pruning.
That's why. But who says those things? Sorry. Let's first and foremost, they always used to tell you free things are expensive because somebody is paying for it. But those things are not free.
Okay.
Those things. That's why I mentioned right at the beginning. Those things.
That's why they take
the
30%.
Done, exactly. Those things are done from the assumption that the margin that they would. What do they call it? And we say 30%, but at certain times they've given 50%. And when the price was 12,000, what percentage were they giving? Of course, they will tell you that they are locked in at 2,000 something. Okay, so back to the current model that the state regulator thing, which then the state regulator is then everything. It's not. First of all, it's not business friendly. It's not suitable, and it has become over politicized. So that in itself is a challenge. So we should move to a really business focus friendly cocoa sector, which is minimal political interference, but also the current over bloated. First and foremost, they are also overstaffed. And so we should be moving away from that. But really, financially and effectively, COCOBOD is in the emergency room on life support. and so it is just, it's painful, and it's difficult and this challenge is not new. It's been coming, whether it is NDC or NPPO, but it's difficult for the sitting government to actually take that bold decision and say that this thing is not happening the way. So that is the challenge right now, but it's been dysfunctional for some time, I can say, for the last 4 or 5 years.
So now where do we go from here?
Where we go from here, immediate is, I hope, what the finance minister will be able to do when he does come out today, will be to find some money to mop up what has been advanced and what needs to be paid for. So that is then settling what is owed the farmers. And we farmers are a very important stakeholder. So let's have that debt overhang. Then we need to have a proper conversation about, okay, so what do we do with our industry? And I want to sound a word of very serious optimism here. Again, Ghana as a country and as a people, we know how to grow cocoa, but we don't understand fully the cocoa industry and the role we play in there. When they say our beans are premium, it means premium because of, again, over time, the work COCOBOD has done in quality control, in making sure, and also because of the way we handle and sun dry our beans and whatever, which is not the general thing everywhere else. Some places they use machine dry, etc. The quality of our bean is what makes the real difference in a quality chocolate. So what happens is companies will buy 60 bags from Ecuador
And mix with
10 bags from Brazil, 2 bags from Ghana for flavor. So we ourselves do not even know and understand our true value in there. So it's not necessarily even, again, producing volumes, but it's more producing quality and what you're good at, which is another understanding of the industry which we haven't really done. Then there's also the other aspect of the way the South Americans are positioned. It's now you have to know where the cocoa is coming from. So single estate, where is it coming from? Traceability. Is it grown amongst trees? It's a whole language. It's a whole approach which we are very well positioned to play. But our biggest obstacle is COCOBOD.
COCOBOD should go?
But I mean, without a doubt. That's what I'm saying. It's not for me to say. The market is saying it. It's already. I got a message from Switzerland about the state of our situation and whatever. And the Swiss are very conservative. They don't generally come out and say too much, and especially also we are one of their major suppliers. But for them to the extent to say that there's a financial crisis and whatever, that means that the patient is close to the morgue. So I'm just, it's not. Some of us have been advocating this for some time now. Anyway, we've not hit on it, but it's almost like there's an implosion that is, and it is manifested by the breakdown in relationship with the key stakeholders.
This message says, "Good morning, boss. As I reflect over COCOBOD's challenges, I've been wondering how come in the colonial era our cocoa farmers were more financially stable. Many of them were wealthy because of the cocoa, but now they are generally hanging around the poverty line. Where did we go wrong?"
Okay, so now we go to the history. Because, and again, there was a change in the history at some stage. In the 1920, from the year 1896 to 2011, the increase in our cocoa production and the wealth that some of our predecessors, and my family being one of them, made was serious money. And then from 2011 to, say, one would say around, I said 2011, from 1911 to 1930s, 1940s. Again, serious money. That was when cocoa started in Ekwapim, Ekropon, Mampong. And that's when, in the 1911s to 1930s, 40s, that's when our people spread to different parts of the Gold Coast, whatever, looking for new forests, growing cocoa extra. So those were serious, interesting boom times. But what then happened was that the buyers, and that was mainly Cadbury's, Roundtree, etc., they wanted a more lower stable price, whatever. So there was a jigsaw juggle. And again, important to realize that what we have right now are farmers who are facing the brunt. But when you actually understand our cocoa system, you know that they are landowners and they are tenant farmers. So we have the Bunu system and the Busa system. Okay. And so in understanding that, when there was an attempt to suppress and control the price, there was a boycott in the 1930s. And the farmers burned the cocoa. They refused to sell. They burnt the cocoa. There was a whole prolonged thing. until there was some, again, investigation by the British colonial government at the time. It was, I think, eventually they came out with what they called the Noel Commission report. And incidentally, that report was never signed by the farmer groups. Never. But it was implemented by the colonial government at that. That's what led to the formation of the Cocoa Marketing Board in 1947. Okay, so farmers were actually handling their own sales, whatever, to the buyers. They were making their money directly until the introduction of the CMB, which was targeted to control and lower prices for export to British and European industries. Okay, fast forward. What do they call it? Independence, and Nkrumah realizing that this was a very good cash cow, and so a lot of our what did they call it? Was it Temahabo, Akosombo Dam? Well, they were financed by cocoa revenue. But what he then did for the farmers was he said, okay, we'll give you scholarships so that your children can go so that your children can go to school, etc. To cushion and offset some of the income or whatever that they were taking away from them, But then Nkrumah's gone, and suddenly we've lost our way, and this has now become some kind of political game where it is more about political employees, appointees, and public relations people who are more interested in wearing flashy suits and coming to speak the party line than actually a business of the cocoa industry, because cocoa is a business. And when we talk about the syndicated loan, which we've run for 32 years continuously, how can you go and borrow money every single year for something that you own? Why? Are we not smart enough to put money aside so we own the thing, so we can be able to purchase the thing ourselves? Why? I mean, it's like we and then interesting enough, when you look at the COCOBOD law, we just chose in the 1984 law, we just chose to focus on the part that deals with beans. But there's a portion that talks about how COCOBOD should be involved in developing the local industry, how COCOBOD ideally should be able to raise money to invest in, if they want to buy shares or if they want to go and start a company in the US. Well, COCOBOD was supposed to grow. So
basically, COCOBOD should have been like a Petronas or the Saudi investment fund, using the cocoa commodity to grow the national wealth.
That was the way
just as GMPC is supposed to use oil.
Yes, that was the way the legislation was, or the law and the act was set up, so that COCOBOD would be, on behalf of Ghana, on behalf of farmers, would be able to use our cocoa strength to become a major player.
And now it's become a liability.
Exactly.
I see you have this box in front of us. Before we wrap it all up, we'll find out how your colleagues are coping. But I see you say if you do this, you get 20 times more. What did you bring?
Okay, so again, Valentine's is around the corner. So we do a number of things. We have a collaboration with Walter Winery, so we do a cocoa wine. We do a cocoa candle in collaboration with the melon. So again, cocoa is such that if you really want to work at it, you have to have collaborations. Then we do an energy bar, we do sweetened nibs, and a couple of other things. Again, this is just one line in really focusing more on food. But if you talk and beverages, there's cocoa husk tea in there. You can look at cocoa powder. But again, when you actually talk now, we want to seriously talk about value addition. Cosmetics, pharmaceuticals. I mean, it's just huge. I mean, there is tourism. When you go, and I like to refer to what I've seen, that's the South African wine and grape industry. When you visit Cape Town, you go to a wine farm. They'll tell you about the history of the wine farm. You find red wine, you find white wine. Out of grapes, they make raisins, they make currants, they make jam, they make jelly, they make muscadel. Come to cocoa. What do? We put it in a jute sack and said, but there are so many things that could be happening in the rural communities and where the cocoa is grown. And so, in principle, with respect to Ohini cocoa, that's what we've tried to do. And then make, again, simple products that...
Okay. Before you continue, let me just say that if you get onto social media pages, you can see what Nana Duna is talking about.
Yeah. I'm holding the cocoa soy candle as it's in upper. The thing smells like...
It smells like what?
Chocolate drink.
Oh, okay.
And
that'd be nice.
Energy bar looks like something I want to eat now.
So now this box like this, if I want a box as a Valentine's present, you can get me one.
Yeah, definitely.
How do we get it?
Again, we are available on social media, WhatsApp contact. It will then be delivered extra, or we'll arrange.
What's the WhatsApp contact?
That will be 054-330-6865.
Again?
054-330-6865.
Before you go, how are the farmers coping now that a lot of you are old?
It's tough. But again, fortunately for me, I'm making sure that I take care of my tenant farmers. It's absolutely critical, because we need to, and again, as a practical example, we need to establish that we can do things differently. This is a competitive game. If and when we succeed in adding value to what we do and being able to create these additional options, you become a serious threat and competitor to those who've been taking your beans for relatively low price and then going to do stuff with it and bringing it back to you. So we should actually start to understand it just beyond just finding money to pay farmers, but rather seeing the opportunity to really look at how we've been doing things for some time and how we can change it. That is the opportunity.
Nana Duna, thank you very, very much for joining us this morning. We're very grateful that you make time to join us. We're still trying to get in touch with, those in charge of COCOBOD. Once we do, we would, engage them also. But thank you very much, and we wish you all the best. I like the Ohini Cocoa things that you brought. Anyway,